A switch housed in a New Orleans museum is a reminder of the mysterious case of a man who was apparently raised from the dead. In 1962, a Haitian farmer checked into a hospital where he began coughing up redness. Doctors weren't super sure what was wrong with him, and his condition continued to worsen until he passed away 3 days after being admitted. His grief-stricken family buried him and mourned the sudden death with no obvious answers. But about 18 years later, in the year 1980, the man's sister was walking down a road when she spotted a disheveled man who claimed to be her brother. Obviously, she didn't believe him. She'd seen her brother die. She watched him be buried. But the man in front of her looked like her brother, told her things about when they grew up together, including his nickname for when they were really young. And the mystery deepened. How had he been raised from the dead? Her brother said he'd been given a voodoo potion that made him appear dead. And he'd actually been conscious but paralyzed during the entire time the family prepared for his funeral. After his death, he was dug up and forced into work on a sugar plantation, where he worked until the owner died and he could escape. Bela Lugosi reigns supreme as one of the world's most famous horror movie actors. However, did you know he actually had some personal interest in the occult? He was known to practice a form of clairvoyance that involved staring intensely at inanimate objects to receive messages from spirits. One of the objects of these clairvoyance exercises was a mirror that Bela Lugosi kept in his Hollywood Hills home. Bela's home was purchased by one Frank Selettri, who was killed in his home. Ooh, little cursed. Bela Lugosi's mirror is now housed in a museum of haunted items in Las Vegas, donated after the niece of Frank Selettri inherited said mirror. The niece claimed that paranormal activity increased in her home after obtaining the mirror, feeling bites on her neck, seeing dark silhouettes reflected in it. Can I steal the mirror? Kevin Manis bought a box at an estate sale in 2001 and immediately started having nightmares about an evil hag, and so did any friends that stayed with him. He decided, hey, I'm just gonna give this to my mom. She suffered a stroke, same day. After that, the box got passed on, and the later owners have also claimed that the Dybbuk, which is the spirit contained in the box, has appeared in their nightmares as well. The last known owner was Jason Haxton, director of the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine, who not only had nightmares, but developed a strange skin disease and began coughing up red fluids. At that point, Haxton contacted his local rabbis, sealed the spirit back in the box, and then hid it from the world with the help from a museum archivist friend. Don't go digging it up. If you find it, leave it in the ground. While the American South is renowned for its hospitality, it does have a dark history connected to plantation, superstition, and human exploitation. One very famous plantation was the Myrtles Plantation, with a rumored 10 deaths occurring in that household. And while the home itself is believed to be haunted, today we're talking about one particular artifact, the plantation mirror. Now, mirrors house their fair share of superstitions. Generally, you'd cover a mirror with a cloth after somebody's passed, but when somebody passed on this place, they forgot to cover this one up. And it is rumored that the uncovered mirror now holds the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her 2 daughters. And while we think they died of yellow fever, legend has it, they were poisoned with cake. Dubbed the Devil's Rocking Chair, this chair is of unknown origin, but it belonged to the Gladsell family in the early 1950s. The horrors began in July of 1980 when David Gladsell was possessed by a demon. He would wake up screaming in the night, claiming he had been visited by a man with big black eyes, a thin face with animal features, jagged teeth, pointed ears, horns, hooves, and everybody was like, okay, yep, nope. You're saying the truth, because David was not the kind of person who liked scary movies. He didn't like to make things up, and he was very visibly shaken by this. He became withdrawn, quiet. Desperate for help, the family called renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. They began making regular visits, bringing priests with them. They performed exorcisms, and a lot of these exorcisms took place while David was seated in the rocking chair. The chair itself moved about the house on its own. It was mysterious. It would disappear, reappear, move around the house. It would levitate, and folks saw it levitate, so we've got enough witnesses. One time in particular, it was the final exorcism when the demon left David, and he was like, okay, I'm getting better. But Arn Johnson, also present, was like, hey, get out of him, come into me. And he got possessed. He started making the same kind of growls and hisses that David had made, as well as slipping into trances for a period of months before killing his landlord. 8 months go by, Johnson appeared in a court with a plan to enter a plea of not guilty due to demonic possession. And for the first time in American legal history, this was used as a reason for killing somebody. Didn't work though. But for many years after the horrifying events, the rocking chair remained in storage. When the family later moved, it went with them. But over time, they were like, yeah, something's wrong with that chair. Whoever sat in it, whether innocently or because they knew its strange history, was suddenly stricken with sciatica or abnormal back problems. Some folks even needed surgery. One close member was unable to walk upright more than 10 years after testing the legend of the chair. So be careful where you sit. No one could have known that a photograph that was taken of Bill Stoneham when he was in his youth would go on to become one of the most famous cursed paintings in history. So when he was young, he played with a little girl from the neighborhood, and one day his parents had, both of them pose in front of a glass door for a photo. Flash forward 1972, Bill's first wife, Roan, wrote a poem called Hands Resist 'Em. It was about Bill's experience of being adopted, never knowing his biological siblings, and at the time the couple lived in California. Bill was under contract with his art studio, where he had to produce 2 paintings each month, making $200 each, which we like. He was strapped for inspiration and was like, hey, I'll just paint that. Called the painting The Hands Resist 'Em, turned it over to Charles Feingarten for a large gallery show in 1974 with the accompanying poem, and at the show the painting was purchased by actor John Marley, most famous for his role as the movie producer in The Godfather, who wakes up with the horse's head in his bed. The gallery show also led to the painting's first press mention, when it was reviewed by noted art critic Henry Seldes. This is all important, I promise, because this is where things get strange. Between 1978 and 1984, 3 of the men closest to the painting died. Seldes in 1978, Feingarten in 81, and Marley in 84. The painting disappeared from public view after Marley's death, and it would be about 26 years before Bill heard about his painting again. It was in the year 2000. It resurfaced in a listing on eBay. The family selling it claimed that the boy and the doll in the painting were fighting. They were coming out of the painting at night, and these details proved to be a huge draw for online buyers. The listing was viewed more than 30,000 times, and some viewers even complained to the seller about experiencing supernatural occurrences after just looking at the listing. They claimed to hear voices in their homes. They became ill. Somebody blacked out. By the time the painting was sold to gallery owner Kim Smith for over $1,000, its legend had spread across the internet. The Stagecraft painting is an adaptation of another photograph. This was taken by commercial photographer James Kidd. And the photo was taken of a wooden cart and the figure of a man without a head, and it was only really found after the picture was developed. There was no evidence of it being tampered with. The artist who painted the painting was drawn to the photograph and just felt like she had to. Her oil painting of the photograph was hung in her home, and that's where things get ooky spooky. She claims it was responsible for a mysterious leak, objects being knocked over, broken items, even mysterious knocks on doors. Laura's had many offers to buy the painting, but she doesn't really want to inflict that on anybody else. The seemingly sweet painting of Samantha Houston has a dark story behind it. Samantha is believed to be the daughter of a senator in Texas, and her father brought her to stay at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin with him in 1887, where she unfortunately fell down the stairs while playing with her ball. And since then, her ghost is said to haunt the Driscoll where she died. Her painting, completed by one Richard King, was hung in the hotel where she passed away and has focused the spirit's alleged activity. A bouncing ball can often be seen in the hotel lobby, door handles beside the painting rattle, and her expression seems to distort as guests view the painting. Also, some folks feel nauseous around it, they feel a falling feeling. I'm just not gonna make eye contact. It's hard to get more iconic than James Dean and his silver sports car. Porsche 550 Spyder cars were some of the fastest cars at the time of being manufactured, but they were also notoriously temperamental. They'd crumple like an aluminum can in a crash. And sadly, that's what happened to James Dean on his way to a car race in 1955. The car was auctioned and sold in parts, but owners of these auto pieces have reported fires, car crashes, mysterious injuries, the whole kit and caboodle. What was left of the car still toured and had its fair share of mishaps along the way. However, after an exhibition in Miami, the towing van and the car disappeared in 1960. In the chilling case of the Perron family, their seemingly serene farmhouse in Rhode Island concealed a dark and malevolent secret. Soon after moving in, there was strange stuff going on. At first, they kind of wrote it off. They're like, okay, weird stuff. Brooms were moving on their own. People were seeing apparitions. Carolyn Perron, determined to uncover the truth, delved into the history of the house and discovered a whole lineage plagued by mysterious and tragic deaths spanning 8 generations. The most ominous presence was that of Bathsheba Sherman, a woman associated with witchcraft. Bathsheba's malevolent intentions became kind of evident as the family's life was spiraling into a nightmare. There was one incident where Carolyn had a really weird wound on her calf that resembled something you would like sew with. And this was just one of many episodes endured by the Perron family over their decade-long time living in the house. Who'd they call in? Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're like, oh yeah, there's something going on here. They identified a cursed artifact, a mysterious box. They believed it acted as a conduit for Bathsheba's demonic energy in the household. So when they were like, okay, we're gonna fix this, they performed blessings, grabbed the box, and got the heck out of there. And that's all for today, folks. I've been Alexa. See ya!